Gloria Victis is an open-world medieval fantasy MMO with a heavy emphasis on PvP, crafting, and territory control between three factions. At first glance, it might not look like much, but there's more to this game than meets the eye, and it's quite surprising once you get beneath the surface of the graphics and the general aesthetic look of the game. The game's been out for a while in early access, but finally came out into its full release on Steam this February for £15, I think under $20, and it was reduced to half price on its release. It's been fun, and there's been a lot of people playing it, but it had a rough release, to put it gently. So let's talk all about Gloria Victis and why you might or might not want to play it. First off, character creator and classes. The game starts you out by picking a starting nation, the noble Midlanders, the Izmir Vikings, or the desert-based Sangar Empire. These decide your starting area, and it is a faction-based game. Think Alliance and Horde in World of Warcraft, but between three factions. So make sure if you're playing with friends, you all pick the same faction. Other choices aren't as important, but this one is key. Once you've done that, you make your character, which is fairly basic on options. The game does look a little dated, and that's there. It's present in the character creator. And then it comes to the classes. You can either complete a questionnaire which picks your class for you based on the decisions you make, or you can just go and make one yourself. And I'll be honest, these aren't classes as you might imagine them. It's not your traditional archer, rogue, warrior. It's very open-ended. Think more like RuneScape, where you can train all the different skills. The classes are very broad. They set you up with a weapon, an armor type, and you can put some points in to create your character how you want them. And it's pretty open-ended on what you want to do, really. It's more of a starting point, and you can put the points in more once you get into the game and start leveling up. You can swap weapons, armor, you can level up all the different crafting professions. Obviously, if you want to be an archer, it's probably best to put some points into dexterity at the start. If you want to wear big, heavy armor and wield a big two-handed sword, you probably want strength and constitution at the start. Once you've done that, you're into the leveling experience, and let's talk about that. It's interesting. The game is a pretty quick tutorial that then opens you to attacking everything. It quickly just becomes collect items, defeat enemies, beat animals, wildlife, destroy camps, and you just zerg around the map, defeating everything and gaining levels. There's not much depth. I can't really talk for the narrative because it didn't really grip me, so it quickly became a spam skip button like a lot of MMOs do. But the leveling experience itself is pretty rewarding. You move from town to town, you go out, you hunt, gather, beat enemies, and get rewards like armor, weapons, gold, things like that. And then you move on and you do it all again. And as you do this, you level up, and you level up very fast, which means you're constantly putting points into different stats, taking new abilities, and generally just getting stronger. So it doesn't feel like you're on a big grind. You're not fighting the same mobs for hours. It's generally kill a few mobs, hand in, go to a new place, hand in, which keeps the leveling very fast. Once you hit around level 50 and you've completed all the quests, you leave the first island and go to what I would say is the mainland, where the territory wars and the PvP happens. This probably takes over 5 hours to get to if you're playing casually and not trying to, speed run your way there. You're doing the crafting, gathering, and you're just doing a bit of everything. And my biggest worry is that a lot of the new people playing this for the first time on release won't even realize that they're on a beginner island, and they'll never make it to the mainland, because that's where the game really starts. So let's talk about why this is worth even making a video on, because the game is very janky. It's got an old school feel. It's not got great graphics. So why is it worth talking about? That's the combat. The combat makes this game all worth talking about. It's the one thing, it's like the golden jewel in a pile of grey. The combat is really good. It's very similar to Mount and Blade. Attacks come in and you need to move your sword or shield in that direction to defend them, like real time. Attacks can be powered up, mixed in from swings, stabs, overheads. You can kick, stun, cancel, and more. And it's so refreshing to have an MMO where the combat isn't just some non-impactful press 1, 2, 3, 4 or tab targeting. If you swing in the wrong direction, miss a block, don't put your shield up when there's an arrow coming into your head, you're gone. If you catch someone off guard with an overpowered swing and you knock them out down and you win, it feels amazing and rewarding. So it's so fun and so enjoyable to do this in a PvP-focused MMO. And people will say, like, oh, there's other games like this, and there is. But this is a pretty good one. On top of that, there are skill points and skill trees, so you can spec your person into an absolute armored Chad. You can be a nimble archer with loads of little archery abilities. There's horse archery, horse combat, medic, lots of cool little things in here. And then there's like a huge specialization tree where if you do something, you gain experience in it and you can progress. So if you use armor for a long time, you gain % increases in armor, and then you can get the next tier of armor. So the more you do a certain thing, the better you get in it, and you become a professional, and you can it's very in depth. So there's a lot of progression here. But what is the game? What are you doing? It's got this great combat. What are you doing? And that is the territory battles. As mentioned, once you finish on the beginner island and head to the mainland, the world is split up by 3 territories split by nodes. Every node is connected: farms, lumber mills, forts, castles, and you can freely roam the map and take them over for your faction. You can head there alone or with some friends or a guild and take over one of these nodes by defeating all the NPCs and raising the flag. But once you do this, it alerts the enemy faction, the node goes on fire on the map and everyone can see that you're taking it, and you'll quickly see real players come to defend it or take it back. And that's where it gets fun. If you successfully take over a node, you become the defender. You can go into the building, access the NPCs that are there. You can upgrade the building and its defenses by giving resources in, so gathering wood and rebuilding different things in the man the walls, defend it. It's very much like a attack and defend game in an MMO with crafting and professions, and it feels really good. It has the old school PvP vibe and the old school interactions that you sometimes are protected from in new MMOs to avoid toxicity or to avoid drama. You're sometimes protected in current MMOs from this open world PvP as it is here. It's rough, it's aggressive, but it's fun. And to add to the excitement, there's loot points and things like this, so successful attackers can loot their enemies, so be ready to craft or buy secondary weapons and armor. I was defending a lumber mill and died to an enemy who stole my heavy armored gloves that I just got. About 20 minutes later, I found him in another node, and we fought, and I beat him, and I looted and used my points to loot the gloves back off him. And it's interactions like that that made the game really fun. And then every time we saw each other, it was like rivals, and it just feels good. If you put all your points into archery and you go man one of these forts and go man a really high building, and you can stand there picking off people won't run in because you get hit, you're dead. It feels really like a real world PvP. It's not just running pop potions and health bars and shields and stuns. It feels like a real war where if you mess up, you die, and you lose stuff. So you're kind of protecting and playing safely so you don't just lose everything. And it feels really good. There is an element of Zerg here, so if 10 people rush a zone, there's not much that 1 or 2 people can do. So there is that, but I never saw any huge fights in the time I played. But I assume that's more down to the guilds. I've been very positive. There's so much good to say, and I've been very positive, but if you go on the reviews on Steam, you'll see that it's not all positive, because there's a lot wrong. Getting into this, no, it is a janky game. This feels extremely early access, even on full release. And I'm just going to list out some of the issues I had when I was playing. Servers. They only hold a few people. I heard people say it was a couple of thousand, and on release it was super hard. They only released with like 2 EU servers. There was issues creating characters, getting into the game. If you did get in, there was bad lag. If you got in on a Friday and then went back in on a Saturday, you might not be able to get on your character. There was rubber banding. There was just so many issues. But I mean, compliment to the developers. They were on hand in the Discord and super responsive to issues. I was getting notified like every half an hour of a bug fix or a hot fix. And you can at them and they would help you out there on the spot. Next is bugginess. I don't know how to describe this other than just buggy, early access jank. It just feels rough around the edges. PvE combat feels super clunky. Horses move is just, they just move like they're robots. It's super clunky. I don't know how anybody enjoys anything with the horses in this game because it just feels awful. And there's horse combat, but how can you have combat when your horse is like a static brick? Weird. Siege weapons feel a bit glitchy, and overall there's just this huge early access sandbox feel in everything, and you just can't get away from that feeling that it's just not polished. This game sat in early access for so long that I'm really surprised that the full releases come out like this, but hey, it is what it is. Next up is The Gathering in I love crafting in MMOs, games like New World, Final Fantasy, and WoW. I'm all over the crafting, got max level crafters, love it. And I tried to get into it in this game because it looks really good, but The Gathering is, I've never seen anything like it. You just stand at a rock and swing your pickaxe. You find a rock, it's a node in the world, and you just do until the node's depleted. And that can take forever. I've tried gathering for like 20, 30 minutes, never again. It is so dry and so dull. I know we're just hitting rocks, but just make it a little more engaging or a little more interesting to the point where I don't have to go and attack a rock and then go walk around the room for 5 minutes while I wait for it to be depleted. So yeah, there's a lot of issues with the game, but there's a lot of good things as well. In summary, I guess this isn't a AAA MMO made by like Square Enix or Blizzard. It doesn't have a huge buy-in either, or a sub or anything like that. It's less than £20. It's really unique for a certain type of player. Someone who loves realistic medieval combat on a large scale with huge open world PvP, with rewarding combat, rewarding fights, and just interactions with other players. It's great. It really is fantastic. I see the game's problems. I can tell it's not perfect, but I've had so much fun. I bought this because it just looked cool. I love medieval games, and I wanted to review it. But I'm going to be playing this a lot more with friends, just roaming around, PvPing, and having fun, trying to take things, just sneak tactics, trying different things, and trying to just like do cool stuff in the PvP, these open world PvPs. And if you've watched the video and you think, you know, this looks pretty cool, you'll probably enjoy it. If you watch the video and go, this looks janky, doesn't look very good, again, you might never get over that because there's no point where that goes. If nothing else, I hope you found this video enjoyable at the very least. If you have, dropping a like on the video helps me out a ton. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want to see more unbiased MMO reviews, tips and guides, subscribe to the channel. That's it for me. Take care. Bye-bye.